Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me at What's Your Story Radio. It's a beautiful day in Seattle, and I think I should let everyone know that because everyone always thinks it's raining here, and I can tell you it's been a beautiful summer, and the fall is just as gorgeous so far. So I have to give a shout out to Seattle about that because so many people think it rains all the time, and I used to think that too before I came back. Oh, it's going to rain the whole time I'm there. It has not. So Seattle is having a beautiful day, and I happen to be here. I want to thank you all for supporting me on What's Your Story Radio. I love getting your emails. I love that you contact me through my website at www.kathybacon.com. You let me know about my guests. You make such great suggestions to me about the show. And I really want you to know how much I appreciate it. I love what I do. I've always loved what I do. And to be able to be a voice for others and have such great guests on here, I'm so fortunate to have that because everyone that comes on What's Your Story has their own unique story to tell. And there's no judgment here at all. We just want to hear, we want to connect, and that's really what it's all about. It's about human connection. And the people that I have on here, wow, I hope that you listen. I hope that you go to my YouTube channel, What's Your Story Radio, my website, www.kathybacon.com, my Facebook page, What's Your Story. You can watch the videos there, and you can connect with the people that I have on the show because they might be doing something you want to do, or maybe you just want to connect because you want to know more about them. So that's always the possibility for What's Your Story Radio. Today I have the best guest ever, I have to tell you. I have known Mona Lucero for a very long time. And when I first landed in Colorado, she was one of the first people I met in the fashion community. And she and many other designers in Denver at that time supported a nonprofit that I was part of called Dress for Success. And they raised $10,000 with a beautiful fashion show. And I just got to know everyone in the fashion community and really loved being part of it and helping in any way that I could, because it's just once someone reaches out to you and does something so kind as they did for a nonprofit, you want to do what you can to help. And that's always what I tried to do in Denver. And Mona and I have stayed in touch. I have so many great pieces of Mona's fashion. And the thing I love about Mona is that she has so much passion for what she does. And let me just tell you a little bit about her. Mona has a love for both fashion and art. This results in clothing that is often whimsical, frequently elegant, and always, believe me, always unexpected. She specializes in many designs that make everybody look great and believes her mission is to help each person find their personal expression, indeed, a devotion to style. Her training is a Bachelor's of Fine Arts from the University of Colorado, Denver, and an Associate in Fashion Design from the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York. And this has enabled her to bring the two disciplines into her signature style. She often incorporates fine art techniques and concepts such as found objects, collage, and sculptural shapes in her designs. And I'm going to read some awards. And I might not read them all, but I'm going to read a few because there are so many awards that Mona has gotten over the years. She's gotten Best of Awards from Denver Westward, 5280 Magazine, Fashion Group International, and nationally from City Magazine in New York City, featured in the Denver Post, Rocky Mountain News, 303 Magazine. She's been recognized as one of Denver's top designers for the Fashion Project contest at Tamarack Square, which all the designers raised $10,000 for Dress for Success. Let that be known that not only do they have fashion and passion, but they have heart. Um, she received Westward's coveted Fashion Mastermind Award. She's been nominated as favorite local designer by 303 magazine. She started the Fashion Association of Denver along with Kathy Bacon. And its mission is to create a dynamic environment in Denver where fashion business can thrive, specifically to create a forum on Facebook and other places in which fashion professionals can share experiences. And this is really important when you're a fashion designer, to connect with others and be a part of a community. And along with other FAD members, they launched, and you may want to check this out if you're out there and you're into fashion, you want to know what's happening in Denver, denverfashioncalendar.com. So I have to tell you, I am so excited, as I know you all will be, to meet Mona Lucero. So thank you so much for being here. And there's your cat too.
Hi, Kathy. How are you?
I am so good. It's just so amazing to see you. And when I think, and I'm reading through your bio and I'm thinking about all the things over the years that you've done, and it just does my heart good. That's all. It just does my heart good, Mona.
Yeah, we have history now. It's been a while, so it's great to see you and see what you're doing also.
Yes.
It's fantastic. And here's Valentino.
Tell me your cat's name again.
Valentino.
Valentino. That makes sense.
It does make sense. It's so funny. Everybody who knew Vincent, my cat who passed away a year ago, when they meet Valentino, they're like, "Wait a minute, what's happening?" Because there's so much alike.
He looks so much like Vincent, and Vincent was such a sweet soul, and
his attitude
was kind of taken over, right?
Yeah, it was perfect to come in after I lost Vincent, because it's so hard to lose a pet. You know how that is.
Oh, yes, I absolutely do, and that's a whole nother show, believe me.
Mm-hmm.
So what is your interest in art and fashion, Mona?
Well, I started off originally, the very first thing I ever wanted to do or be was an artist as a kid. And I don't remember how old I was, but I was probably 4 or 5. And I was drawing something. I drew my grandmother, and I thought it looked just like her. She was sleeping in an armchair, and I was just like drawing her. And after I was done, I was like, that looks just like her. I want to be an artist. And then I'd never even heard the word artist, but for some reason that seemed right to me. Right. And so I drew for a long time and went to art school. And as I also loved clothes, there were people in my family who always were into clothes that was kind of looked a little stylish. My grandmother, my sister Esther, and my brother Al. And I always would watch what they would wear and just was inspired by that, and always tried to do something interesting with what I was wearing, especially in art school. I was one of those art students who always wore wacky outfits. And as time went on, I started falling in love with art, with fashion. I was reading Vogue magazine and all these other magazines and finding out about these famous designers and really admiring what they were doing. And as I was finishing art school, I wasn't sure I was going to be able to make a lot of money or make money being an artist. I was nervous about it. And since I was starting to fall in love with fashion, I decided to go into fashion because I knew I could, get a job or make a living doing that. And that's how I ended up going to art school. So I took, design school in New York. So after I finished my bachelor's at CU Denver, I took about a year off, and then I went to New York and went to design school there, which was probably the best decision I ever made in my whole life. It was such a fantastic place to learn. The city itself teaches you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, that was great. That was a really fun time.
It's so funny that whole concept and all those messages that tell us that we are not going to make any money in art have to change, because you are an artist first, and being an artist, it may be a struggle, but it's so creative, and it leads to so many other things like it did for you that I remember hearing that as a kid myself. Oh, you'll never make money in art. You'll never make money in art. And stop saying that, everyone, because that being artistic, being creative can lead to so many other things that you don't even know, like you in fashion and going to New York and going to design school. I mean, look what happened to you. So
Yeah.
I say poo poo on don't say that.
That's
Art.
right. Well, and the issues at that time were more that I didn't believe in myself as enough to do it.
Right.
And I remember the artwork I was doing, I was comparing it to other people's art at that time, and all of my artist friends were doing either these beautiful abstracts or these amazing realistic paintings and things. And mine were kind of off the wall. They were a little bit quirky, and I thought, nobody wants this kind of stuff. I don't know. It's not really going to work. But now, if it were me now as an older woman and understanding all of the ins and outs, I've just so much I've learned, I probably wouldn't think of it that same way.
No. No, I know. It's true. When we get older, we kind of think differently about it, but we wish we knew what we did when we were, 20 now, because we would have said, forget it. Art is art. And that's the beauty of art, is that everyone gets to do what they want with it because someone's going to like it. Someone is. It's inevitable that someone's going to like each person's art. We may not have the same taste, but, yeah, it's always infuriating to me when I hear there's no more art classes in school. I mean, that's one of the things I really loved, and I never, ever honed in on it because I had those messages about it. But now, like you, I would have thought differently. So,
Yes.
but, I'm so happy that you found another avenue through your art to do design and fashion because you are tremendous at it. And so tell us what your current projects are right now, Mona.
Okay, so well, there's been a few different ones just this year.
Yeah.
The one that was really unique for me this year was I got involved in an ad campaign for Royal Gorge Bridge. I was contacted by the marketing people who were handling the advertising for Royal Gorge Bridge. And I don't know for people who are not from this area, Royal Gorge Bridge is in southern Colorado, and it almost feels like it's pretty big. It's definitely not as huge as the Grand Canyon, but it's kind of our mini Grand Canyon. And there's a bridge that goes over it. And the bridge apparently was made just for tourists. It was never a gateway towards, for pioneers or anything like that. But it's really beautiful. It's a pretty amazing place. And there was a fire in that area a few years ago, and the Royal Gorge itself has been trying to get to, remind people everything's fine now, and some of the buildings have been rebuilt. It's very nice. And they asked 3 artists to create a design or an art piece that was inspired by Royal Gorge Bridge. And one of the artists was a painter, one was a singer-songwriter, and then I was asked as a designer, which was really unusual. I've never created anything outdoors before. I mean, I have kind of like at the last minute, like, oh, I'm falling down. How did that happen? And I'm outdoors like sewing that. But I've never actually designed something from scratch, let alone on a bridge hundreds of feet up in the air. And we were given the opportunity to do it wherever we wanted. We could do it on the sides, on regular land that was, close by or whatever. But I decided I would do it directly on the bridge, and that was really fun. Yeah, it was really
inspiring.
It was. And we were lucky because we got to be there. They had us come in even before the area had opened up. So we were there basically as the sun was coming up, and we were there until sundown. And when there's nobody around there, you feel the true grandeur of the place. It gets very quiet and just kind of feel like it's just really interesting, maybe spirits or something, but
yeah,
it's really fun. And so that was one thing I did. And actually my design, the dress that I created there, is on display at Royal Gorge Bridge right now. It's been there for a few months, and it'll probably be there through the holidays. I'm not for sure on that yet. And so a commercial was created by that, and you can actually go on YouTube or go onto the Royal Gorge Bridge site and see a few of the films that were made of that. And there were individual ones of each of us, and then there was one where you see us all meeting each other, and they use a drone. This was so cool.
Yeah.
Before, so the camera
would have to.
was so amazing. So they had a camera, And the drone came from who knows how far, like hundreds of feet away. And it slowly came in, and we got to see the footage the day after. And you just see, it looks like there's like a bridge, and the bridge looks like it's made from like spaghetti or something. It looks like a toy. And then as it came in a little bit more, you see like little, it looks like ants walking across the bridge. And you're like, that's so cool. And no, it doesn't, it's sharp the whole time. The image is sharp. And then it goes in and you go and you start, oh, there's people walking on the bridge. And then they keep it coming in. And it's like, that's me and the other two guys walking on the bridge. It was incredible.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna go look for it. I'm definitely gonna look at it.
It was very cool.
Yeah.
So that was one thing I worked on.
Yeah. What a cool project.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, it sounds like, that's kind of a different kind of thing that you've been doing in recent, to be able to go out into nature. I mean, I'm sure you get inspiration from nature, but to actually be able to create there right on the site. How cool was that?
It was cool. It was cold in the beginning of the day, and then it got hot in the afternoon. Tourists were walking by going, what is happening?
Valentino, look at you back there, just cleaning himself off and having a grand old time. I love him. I just love him. Oh. Anyway, away from the cat for a moment.
Right.
So this is very exciting, and I cannot wait to hear about this. But what is the film Fashion and Style, Mona Lucero, about? And how did it all come about?
Well, I have a lot of artist friends, coming from an art background. So one of my friends is a filmmaker. His name is Michael Lauder, and the name of his production company is Lauder Zeit Productions. I believe I might have it not quite right, but it's Lauder Zeit, Lauterzeit. And he's done a few films, and I've invited him to a few of my fashion shows in the last couple of years, and it's like, come down and check out the show. And he comes down and a couple of other friends. And I never get film from my shows. It's so rare. I have some, but not much. Over the years, it's mostly photographs. And I was like, oh, I really want to film. I want to see actually what is happening on stage, because I'm always behind stage making sure that the models look great. Otherwise, I don't get to see the show.
Right.
So I asked him once as a favor, do you mind coming in and filming this show? And it was for Urban Nights last year.
Oh,
and so we asked for permission, and they said sure. And he came down, and he has a beautiful professional camera that's, you can show it on a big screen, and it's very sharp picture and everything. So he brought that down, and he wasn't able to get in a good spot. It was just so full, and he wasn't able to get at the end of the runway, which is the ideal thing, to be at the end of the runway and catch the models coming towards you. And he wasn't able to do it. So he was disappointed, and he wouldn't show me the film. Can you see him?
He's so cute. He's just sitting there, like peering into the side of the computer there. He's so much about you. Like, he's just got your aura with him. So he's loving the story, I think.
He worked on it. He was a stray, and it took him a while to settle down. I could tell he was stressed. My friend found him on the street, so we were going to work on it to get him to mellow out, and we're still in the process of it.
He's so sweet. You can tell that he just has your aura. He just kind of fits into what you're doing and what you're talking about. I love it. So okay, I didn't mean to go off on the cat again.
Okay, sorry.
She's so cute. But he came to the Urban Nights, and he couldn't film at the end of the runway. So then,
so he filmed from the side of the runway, and it had the feeling. So I'm sure you've seen many fashion shows where people have their cameras up, and you see this kind of thing, and back and forth, and it's cool, but it's usually not that sharp. You can see it, and it's like you get a general feeling. Well, with his amazing camera, you feel like you're sitting in the seat. You're right there. And he wouldn't show it to me because he said he thought it was terrible. He's like, oh, it's just not up to my standards. And I was like, well, could I please see it? So he finally showed it to me, and I was like, I really like this. And he said, you do? And I said, yeah, I think it's super cool. I've never seen anything quite like this. Just so sharp.
Right.
and not from the end of the runway, not a perfect, it's just like you're there and you're watching. And he was like, oh, okay, cool. And he goes, well, I have an idea because I've been watching what you're doing and seeing all the interesting things that you're doing. I'd like to do a short film of what you do. And I said, yeah, sure. I still didn't even really think, I'm like,
Oh,
whatever. Well, that sounds good. I wasn't really paying attention that much. I was busy. And
right.
he said, whenever you're doing something interesting, I want you to tell me and I'll come down and I'll film it. And I said, well, how long do you think this is going to be? And he said, well, it'll be probably around 8 minutes, six, I can't remember, something like less than 10 minutes for sure. And so in the last year, he's come to a few fashion shows and filmed, and then he's come to my studio and filmed me working. We've done a couple of photo shoots, one photo shoot with two girls. I'd actually already done a photo shoot with him, and he was upset that I hadn't invited him to come to it because I didn't it. So he said,
Yeah.
could you do it again or do something similar? So we actually set up another shoot in Rhino, and the girls were on the street wearing the clothes, and then we also did another shoot at Union Station, which I didn't realize was, they don't like that. Union Station people didn't like that.
So cool at Union
Yeah.
Station.
Yeah,
Wow.
but we got some great footage there. And then we also did a shoot at Aaron Johnson Antiques. Have you ever been to Aaron Johnson Antiques?
No, I have
Oh,
not.
it's a beautiful place. He has the most gorgeous antiques, and you just walk in and you're just like, wow, just
Wow.
and from different, hundreds of years old to some like a deco piece, and they're just beautiful. And I know Aaron and Michael does too. And Michael asked him if we could use the space to do a shoot, and Aaron graciously said yes.
Wow.
And so we brought in about 6 models, and we did an all-day shoot there.
Yeah.
And we were trying to stay out of their way because they were actually still doing business that day.
Right.
It was awesome. It turned out so cool though because it was
Is that?
really it was really funny because at one point we had the girls changing
Yeah.
and they were halfway changed, right? So one girl had her top off, one girl had her bottoms off, and we were like running around getting everything changed. And one of hope they don't get mad at me telling this story, but it was so funny. But one of the manager of Aaron Johnson Antiques walked around the corner, and she had a customer with her. It was a youngish guy, and he walked around the corner, and here's these beautiful models who are half dressed, and he was just like, and the manager was like, and I was like, did they
Is
laugh?
that is that some of the photos that I've seen? I think I saw a photo with a girl walking in and walking out, and there were beautiful antiques in the back. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. But here, the good news was that one of the sets that we used had all these beautiful armoires, and apparently this guy had been in before, like once or twice, and had been thinking about one of those armoires, and bought one that day. So it was like, okay, maybe we helped a little bit.
we have some good juju going on here.
So it was a really fun shoot. It was all day, and the girls were great. They, were there. It was a hard day. It was busy, but they did a great job. And so I think most of the people who were in the film will be at the screening next week.
Oh,
So
that's so cool. So where can you see the screening? Where is it at? I think it's in Denver somewhere. Cool, right?
yeah, it's going to be at the Mayan Theater, which is on First and Broadway in the downtown area.
Wow, at the Mayan Theater, Mona Lucero headlining? Are you kidding me right now?
Just for one day, though.
Oh my gosh, though, that's so cool.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really fun.
It's going to be awesome. That's just so great. What a great, I mean, it's kind of like you've done all these things in time along the way. And this is like, wow. I mean, it's so cool that he had the thinking to do something like this. Cause that just, I gotta say, that just takes you to a whole nother level, you know?
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess so. I probably, and I do appreciate it a lot, Michael. We were just interviewed a few days ago by Susan Freud of Westward,
Oh,
and
yeah.
Susan had asked him, what was your inspiration? Why did you do this? And his answer was, I was like, wow, that is so nice, and he said that he was in, I don't remember exactly, you get a little nervous when people
Yeah.
say a lot of complimentary things about you.
Yes.
But he was very nice, and he just said that he was very inspired and
Love it.
by what I do. But he's also somebody who really thinks outside of the box, and
Right.
we had a great time working together on this. I keep saying it's Michael's baby. He's the one who came up with the concept and decided to do this and pull it together. It's all his work. Also, when a lot of his work went into this, he's done some beautiful animation of my logo, and when you see it, you'll be surprised.
I can't wait to see it. Oh, I can't wait to see it.
But a lot of the film is based around on what not necessarily my life. It's not like we're talking about when I
Right.
from start to finish or whatever, but it's more about what inspires me and what keeps me going and what keeps an artist going.
Right.
And so he interviews me a fair amount, but there is definitely a narrative going through it, and you get to see all the different things that I do as a designer, like sketching and buying fabric. We went to Colorado Fabrics. He
Oh
filmed
my
us
gosh.
fabrics. Colorado Fabrics was not happy also at the moment that we showed up, but they let us. Once we explained and they are getting credit for allowing us to use their.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's be kind to each other because it really benefits everyone that you frequent. I mean, if you go to there, they get a little credit. If you go to the antique store, everybody gets a little credit for supporting what you're doing. And in the meantime, people want to know about them too. So it's a really great collaboration, I think.
That's definitely true. And I've been going to Colorado Fabrics since I moved to Denver, I guess. Actually don't really remember exactly how long, but it's been a long time. I've gone to all the different locations that they've had. And in a way, they're Denver's garment district. We don't really have a garment district here. And if you need something that's unique, then Colorado Fabrics will probably have something that you're looking for. So
Yeah.
I love them.
Yeah. And so and maybe they didn't know that about you either. I mean, they may have seen you or, come in, but maybe they didn't know that you've been shopping there and getting your fabrics there and, making your pieces from their fabrics since you've been in Colorado. I mean, that's a cool thing to know.
Yeah.
I want to know that as a shop owner. So how cool is that you ended up there filming and showing off their place too. I mean, that's such great collaboration. If people would just stop and think about that, it's a great collab.
It is, and it's interesting because I've been promoting this film.
Right.
I've been trying to get people to buy tickets because we're paying for that film, for the Mayan. So it's kind of it's not extremely expensive, but we want to make sure that we're covered with that. And so as I've been promoting, I was like, okay, here's all these wonderful people who have been involved. And as I started writing out who actually had been involved, I realized so many of them themselves are artists. And, we have a few musicians. We have Michael had asked a few of his friends who are musicians. And in fact, one of the songs that he used, I didn't even realize I'm friends with her on Facebook. Wow. And then the models are also there's a few models who are actresses. There are burlesque performers, pinup stars, artists who are, they do a variety of things that they create and sell. And, that's just the models. So we've been able to use a few photographers' work also and videographers. David Rosa of 303 Magazine allowed us gave us permission to use some footage from Denver Fashion Weekend. That's just beautiful. And, also 303 Magazine gave us permission. So it was, we've been able to, it's just been really a lot going on there. And then most of this is in Denver, but there's a lot of different locations in Denver too. So I kind of think of it as a snapshot of 2016 to 2017 Denver also.
Right. Which is very cool because, I know, as I mean, years back, fashion was just a glimmer in Denver's eye. And now it's a pretty big deal, and it's good to see that. And it's good to see that, I mean, you've stayed there as well. Lots of people come and go, and they don't think Denver is good enough maybe at the time, and they wanted to go to New York or go to LA or wherever they wanted to go. But you stayed, and you've continued to show everyone, the community, that Denver is still very much about art and fashion. And I mean, this film has got to be very inspiring to new designers coming up and people that really don't know about Denver, and kind of think of it as a cow town, because it's not anymore. It's just not.
Right.
So,
Yeah, it's hard to keep up with everything that's going on here now. That's a really good thing in terms. I used to think I knew almost every designer in Denver, and every once in a while I'd hear about somebody who I didn't, like, oh, I haven't heard of them. And then I would probably eventually get to know them. But now it's impossible. There's just no way you can know everybody. There are so many people who are interested in doing something in fashion.
That's so great. I'm so happy to hear that. I mean, when I left, it was just kind of starting. And then after I've been gone, for a few years now, it's like I read stuff on your Facebook page and other people's pages, and things are happening. And, the Denver Arts and Venue are really getting involved too, which is so fantastic. I'm just so happy. I'm just so happy to see Denver have a face of fashion, because that's what it does have. And the fashion there, which you've created over time, is worth seeing. It's worth being a part of. So it's just,
and I think the biggest thing right now is to get people to start buying the fashion, buying the clothes. And we do have people who are selling, but there's not any real place to find it all. Brandy Shigley is doing her thing with the fashion markets, Brandy at Fashion Denver, and she's been doing that for quite a long time now. I think that's been at least 10 years.
right.
And, so Brandy has been a big force in that, but we need a lot more of that. And we also need just regular people going, seeking out Denver fashion designers and buying their clothes. Super important.
I think the marketplace is good, but I think the marketplace needs to be a mainstay marketplace for fashion designer clothing. I mean, where are you, Denver Arts and Venue? Don't you have a venue available somewhere? Because it would be great to have that, just to have a place where you could walk in, a big warehouse space where, designers could put their clothing in there, and it could be shoppable for everyone. That would just be an awesome thing. I need to think about it. My wheels are spinning now.
Do that.
So tell me, what do you think? We're talking about, smaller fashion designers, new fashion designers. What do you think are the top issues that they have to face coming into fashion and being passionate about it like you are?
Well, I think I'm not sure there's a big difference between the older designers who've been doing it for a long time and younger designers in terms of the challenges. The fashion world is changing dramatically, and the way people used to sell fashion is very different from the way people sell it now. But what I always tell people is that, whenever there's students who ask me questions about, like, what would you suggest? How do I get into design? And I would say the first thing is, you start sewing. You should learn how to sew. If you don't know how to sew, you don't absolutely have to know how to sew, but it's good to understand the basics of that, because then when other people are doing the work for you, you can tell them what's possible and what's not possible. I've worked with sewers and pattern makers who argue with me about, like, that can't be done. And I'm like, yes, it can. I'm going to sit down. I'll show you how it can be done. Because you're the one who's creative. You have a way, you can think outside the box and create something in a different way. And there's no rules. So that's one thing, is to learn how to sew. Secondly, I suggest learning about fashion history, because we're not the first people who ever came up with, like, exposing seams or something like that. Like, that's been happening, and it has happened at various times in the world. And we're part of a lineage. As designers, we're part of a lineage. And for me, I'm part of like I know I'm not even in the same league, but Schiaparelli, I'm part of that lineage. I'm part of the Moschino lineage, and there are probably a few others, but those people I look up to, and when I still see their work from decades ago, I'm like, I love what they do, and I have a huge amount of respect for that, and that keeps you humble, makes you understand, what you're doing is, yeah, it's good, or maybe hopefully it's good, but there's other people who've come before who are just like, ah,
Yeah, yeah.
and then go to school, go to fashion school, at least. And actually, I think it's good to go to university and not just a fashion school, because you get a well-rounded education. You understand what's happening in the world. And a lot of the best fashion designers in the world refer to things that are happening culturally. They know what's going on. It's not just a pretty dress. And and then finally, like, work for another designer, because you'll learn so much by working for either a manufacturer or another designer, how it's done, and the whole process.
Right, right, right. Yeah, because it is a process, You didn't just start out being great like you are now. I mean, it was a process.
Right.
No, it was a process, Mona. I mean, I think I remember. I mean, you've had such cute little places to come and see your designs. You've had shops, and now you're in Rhino now, right?
Yeah.
How cool is that? I mean, that's just I mean, when I left, it was kind of a really up and coming area, and I'm sure it's just phenomenal now. I loved Rhino, and it's just so funny because it used to be an industrial area, and now it's this great creative fashion art district. I
Right.
mean, so
You know, it's,
fantastic.
it's all really, there's always a challenge, and getting people, again, to buy on a consistent level. The best time that, when I sold the most consistently, just to be honest with you, is when I had my store. And so now I am selling online. You can find my things on monalucero.com. And that's something I'm working on marketing in this next couple of months. You'll see a lot more about that.
Good,
So,
good. Because I mean, seriously, the way the world is today, I see it here in Seattle. It's all big cities, People are busy. I'm not that busy, but because I've learned how not to be busy, but they don't want to go into a store. They want to go online and they want to shop and they want it delivered to them. I mean, I see it happening here with so many people, like with Amazon. I mean, people are buying groceries from Amazon now and they're delivering them here. I mean,
yeah,
everything is happening online.
that is a
So,
big thing. That's something that we all have to contend with.
yes, we
Everyone
do.
does. So that's why I say, even from somebody who's just starting out to designers who've been doing this for a long time, we all have that challenge. And in some ways, maybe younger and more emerging designers might have an advantage because they understand all of that. They grew up with all of that. So you never know. But and I think it's important to think, if you can think outside the box. Everything doesn't have to be the way it's been done before.
That's right. That's right. And you're very good at doing that, Mona. You always have been. And I mean, it's worked so well for you. And you always have. Well, I love the part about you having the art background because you are very artistic and you do think out of the box. And there's so many things that you do that aren't the norm. So it's just really nice to have you still around in Denver and be there to inspire and promote, what is possible. Because I think sometimes like we get caught up with, like I talked about earlier, where people, don't even want to look at art as a a means to make money because we've been told it's not. And you're here to tell people and let people know that that's just really not true. It can go in so many avenues like it has for you. So,
Yeah.
why do you think fashion is important? Is it that important in the world today? And why? And in what way is fashion important?
Well, fashion is a tough thing to love at times. From an outsider's point of view. For me, I always love it, but I
Yeah.
know I have seen people say, they have asked that, well, fashion, why is it important? How does it contribute? In a lot of cases, some people want to wear a piece of clothing because it has a label on it and because it's expensive and they can show off wearing it. But to me, in my mind, fashion is more about expression. and it's another extension of art. It's part of art. It's part of being creative, and we don't have to create all these divisions of this is fashion, this is art, this is music, this is whatever it is. It doesn't have to be that. It can, all of these things can come together. And currently, the way things are in the world, I've seen now, maybe it's because I'm watching, reading and paying too much attention to the news, and so I'm starting to think, oh, what's going on in the world? Oh, maybe it's not any worse than it ever has been. I think it is, but but we need art, we need fashion, we need things to keep us sane, and we don't think about the art that surrounds us all the time, and the decisions that people make to make our world a little bit better, creative people. For instance, where I live in a building that's probably was built in, I'm guessing, either the 30s or the 40s. And it was obviously designed by an architect, because there's little things in this building that are just amazing. And I go, okay, this person, whoever it was really thinking about what would be good for my not knowing me, but my quality of life, the people who are going to live here. And the same thing is true of fashion. The clothes that we put on make us feel good, and they help our lives become better. And they also help us express ourselves to other people. People judge us by what we wear.
Yeah, it's true.
Those things. But I have had moments where when I really put myself together in a unique way, once I wore one of my designs in a nightclub in New York, and I met everybody in the nightclub. Everyone was coming up to me and going, wow, what are you wearing? And it was like a blast. I mean, it was really not, it was just fun, but also it creates a dialogue. So there's a lot of things that are great about fashion, but if we just imagine taking away art or fashion, let's just say even just that what you see here is gone and it's all white walls, and I'm wearing just a black t-shirt and no jewelry, and you don't have those cool glasses on, don't have your top on, your art's gone from behind you, and it's just bland. And we do that all over the world, and everything goes away, all art goes away, all fashion goes away. That's the point of I actually, no music,
Yeah.
no movies. This is all art. We need it, and we need to respect it, and we have to remember how much it makes our lives so much better.
It does. You're absolutely right. It does. And when I was in Thailand, it was so interesting there too, because the art and the music, it was everywhere, and it was so different than here. But then in some ways it wasn't different, because they felt the same. They're very creative people, and they believe that art and music and fashion and all of that is a creation of ourselves, and it is an expression of ourselves, like you just said. And we were able to find those places to go, and gosh, I posed in front of so many art pieces at this place that I loved, and I just just going into a room of art where all over the walls.
Yeah.
If that doesn't inspire you, then you need to walk back out and go back in.
Right.
Because you don't, you're not you're not there. And yeah, I so agree with you about that. I just, and it's all over the world. Any country you go into, they do have, at least in Thailand and Asia, they're very artistic people, and they love art, and they love all of that. So,
remember, I've seen your Instagram posts are beautiful.
Oh,
I'll tell you, for me, one of the best things that can happen in terms of, in terms of a compliment, when somebody wears one of my pieces and they tell me what they experienced while they were wearing it, and how much they enjoyed what they wore, and people told them how amazing they looked. I remember, to me, so this is one of my favorite compliments. This girl came into my store once, and this was, okay, so I had two complete outfits in each side of each window.
Right.
And she came in, she's like, I love that outfit, and I love that. Do you mind if I try them on? She tried them both on, bought the whole complete outfit, both of them. And then she left, and I didn't see her for quite a while. She came in one day, and she said, oh, I left my clothes. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And then she goes, I'm engaged, and I'm looking for some jewelry for my bridesmaids. And she said, And she told me what she was looking for, and I was like, oh, I hope I have it. And I look around, and I'm like, yes, we have. I think she had 4 or 5 bridesmaids, and we had complimentary earrings that all worked with what she was thinking of. And she said, I knew you would have this. I just had a feeling you would have this. And then I said, well, I remember you coming in and buying these dresses, these ensembles. And she goes, yeah. And she goes, I was wearing one of those when my fiance proposed. And I was like, so it didn't stop him from proposing, right? Apparently not.
That's so awesome. What a great story. Yeah, it is nice when you get that feedback, isn't it? That, someone was wearing something and being proposed to is a pretty big deal in Mona Lucero clothes. I mean, come on.
And
Really?
also when the guys when the husbands or boyfriends would say, I know which designer you are. She wears the blah blah. I love that outfit. And most guys, not all guys, but a lot of straight guys they're not that interested in. They just go, oh, she looks pretty, But they would be like, she wore the blah blah and the blah blah, and that's yours. Thank you.
I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. You have been in Toastmasters. I've been seeing that a little bit on your page that you've been going to Toastmasters, and you just did a speech called How I Dealt with My Mother's Mental Illness. Can you
Yeah.
tell us more about that, Mona? Because I always thought you spoke fine in front of people, but you must have went there to hone in more on your skills, I'm sure.
Yes.
So can you tell us about that speech?
Well, okay, this is Toastmasters for people who don't know. Excuse me. It's actually, I think technically the whole name is Toastmasters International. So
Yes.
they actually do it all around the world.
Yeah.
And there's chapters in every city. So even in Denver, I don't know how many there are, but there's probably in just our little area, I think there's at least 6 different
Yeah.
meetup groups. And basically you practice public speaking, and it is a big challenge, especially when you have to think about it in front of people, know what they're looking at. So it gets hard. It's actually harder in front of them.
Yeah.
Because everybody's really paying attention to every little thing that you're doing, and they're very nice, but you get feedback.
Right.
And so it took me 2.5 years to get to my 10th speech. And I've done a variety of speeches. Some of them have to do with fashion, and some have been other things. But this speech, I think one reason it took me so long to do this speech was because I knew it had to be about my mom. And, my mother had a mental illness. She had schizophrenia. So it was very difficult to grow up with her. At times, realizing that she probably wasn't going to get better, and there were a lot of difficulties. It was hard for our family. And it was hard for her, of course. And I had to do an 8 to 10 minute speech.
Oh my gosh, that's a long time. 8 to 10 minutes is a long time.
It is a long time. And the last speech you have to remember, it's basically you're expected to have it memorized. You can't, check your notes. And that's always been my crutch, to check my notes. Like, very hard for me to let go of my notes. So I probably repeated that over and over, like a few hundred times. And I still screwed it up, but I think it was mostly nervousness. Parts of it, there were a couple of things. It's like, oh, I didn't say that the way I wanted to say it. But, to bring that speech down to 8 to 10 minutes, there were 2 things that were difficult. I wanted to make it shorter so I could memorize it easier. But secondly, it's hard to keep it short because it's there's a lot to the story. But I was very proud of myself for having gotten through it and done it, and I'd like to do it again. But one of the things the biggest reason why I wanted to tell this story was because I know so many other people who have gone through this in different ways and are still going through it today. And so many people don't want to talk about it. And there's a lot of stigma still surrounding this. It's 2017, and we're still worried that we might be judged for either having mental illness or having a family member who has or had mental illness. And I really think that would help everyone if we'd start talking about it just a little bit. I went to therapy, and I remember my therapist explaining to me, it's okay to talk about it. And I started talking a little bit about it to friends. It was even difficult for me to talk about it to close friends. And as I started to do that, it got a little easier. And now doing this speech was a big deal for me. And I wanted to talk about it to you also, because I know that there are people out there who need to hear this message. And it's important. It really is important. We can't lose people. Some people, people get really depressed. Sometimes there's suicides. There are people who have drug issues. There's so many different things that are happening all around us. And it is okay to go and get help, ask for help, and it's okay to talk about it. It's super important. So that's one thing. That's why I did this last speech, which I'll do more other ones, but this one was super important to me.
Good for you, because you're absolutely right. I mean, I've had family members that had issues. And one thing about me is like, I talk about it because I know well, first of all, I don't want to be alone. And I know I'm not. And I think so many times people don't talk about it because they feel like they're alone, and no way could anybody have what, a family member or somebody, even themselves, that feel this bad. So they don't talk about it. And you're so right. I mean, we are all one, and we need to support people that have those issues, because then there wouldn't be that stigma. Then people could come forward and talk about it. And you know, it's time for our world to show empathy and kindness to all people, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And I just applaud you for doing this, because, I mean, shout from the highest rooftops. If you have a mental illness, there is help, and please get it. And please reach out to people, because there are people that are out here that care. I mean, I absolutely care. You absolutely care. That's only two of us. There's millions of people that do care.
Yeah.
And like you said, talk about it and get it out in the open so that you can get help. And that's another thing too. I know, a few people in Denver that are advocates for mental illness, like Chrissy Hodges is a big advocate for mental illness, and really doing a great
really
job.
Appreciate her doing that. She's amazing.
Yeah. So, I'm sure your group really appreciated the fact that you brought it up, because like you said, people don't really want to talk about it.
Right. I think I got some pretty good feedback, and it was it was funny. It was a funny day. You never know who's going to come to those meetups, and so it was all men who were at this particular meeting. So,
Perfect.
So there were two speeches that day, and the first guy did one on, and he's a really good speaker. He was on a boat in Antarctica, and so he had these amazing like video footage of like on the boat in Antarctica, and I was like, oh, I'm going to talk about mental illness now. Oh my God. It's like I have to do it. I can't just go, oh well, he was too good, and that was such a great subject, and
that's how life is. Take the good with the bad, or take the good with the uncomfortable, right? That's how it is.
It was good, and I really love my the people who I work with at Toastmasters are so
nice.
supportive. They're great people.
Nice. Well, and I'm sure that your mom was looking from above and smiling, so because you shared something so intimate about her.
One thing I said in this speech that I think was super important, and it was kind of funny because I think I just started to learn this just very recently, and I wish I had been able to tell my mother this, but I finally accepted that what she was thinking was real, that was really real to her, and I used to argue with her. Mom, that's not real. Oh, come on, Mom, stop, And now I go, that was real to her, and I really didn't respect her in the way I should have. In that, I mean, I absolutely loved her, and I did guys a lot, but I could have said, you know what, Mom, what you're seeing is for real, and I'm not going to argue with you about that anymore.
But it's all about education too. You didn't know then, so you can't really fault yourself. I mean, now we have so much more education about mental illness, and we're able to be more empathetic to people. So I think she knows.
I hope so. But
Yeah.
it's a challenge. Everybody has that challenge. It's not just me. I used to think that it was just me. I'm like, I'm the only one who's going through this. And then as time went on, I was like, no. And when I posted something on Facebook about that I was going to do this speech, and I said what the subject was, and I had a bunch of people get on
Of
to
course.
tell me that they had experiences in their own family.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, I think that's absolutely wonderful. It's something that you had to put out to the world and you did. And so how's your speeches coming? Are you feeling more comfortable in front of people? Because I've never thought of you as like being uncomfortable talking to people. When I saw that you were going to Toastmasters, I'm like, I wonder. He always seems to talk fine in front of people, but maybe there was
well,
something you were looking for there.
um, I just thought that it would be important to get better at it, I think.
Yeah.
And everybody has different challenges. Like some people
Yes.
are really amazing, like extemporaneously, and some people have a terrible time, hard time, like writing something out or being brief, or not talking enough, or too many ahs and uhs, or they won't look people in
Right.
the eye. And everybody has different issues, but it's been really good for me to. I think some of the things I've learned, one of them is I've done a lot of writing. Every speech means a lot of writing and a lot of editing.
Right.
And that has helped me to learn to kind of bring down an idea. He
Right.
loves marketing. He loves marketing.
Valentino, he wants to color.
He loves markers. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's been really good. And it also makes me do it. You
Yes.
know,
Yes. Yes.
I have to show up and do it.
Well, and through the years that I've known you, Mona, there's never been going backwards. You've never gone backwards. You've always gone forward. And you've always tried to be the best that you can be in every aspect of fashion and art and just you as a person. And I respect that so much about you is that um, you're just like that shining star that just keeps on shining no matter what. And you don't take no for an answer, and you think out of the box like you've been talking about so much. And I think that's really important because we're all different and we all have different aspects of ourselves sometimes we're afraid to share. And one thing that you said is that we can share all those things through art and music and fashion. It's just a wonderful thing that we're living in this time right now with each other. And so
Thanks.
thank you for that. I mean, it's really been a nice ride for you, and it's been fun to watch it from afar and from close. Either way, it's been so fantastic.
Thank you.
So before we go, I would really like to know, find out more information, what you're up to with your clothes, how we can find them, what's a good way to get a hold of you. And I will also put that on my website for
Okay.
people to find you as well.
Sure. Well, probably the best way to find me is on monalucero.com. And
Good.
I'm on social media. I'm on Instagram, also under Mona Lucero, I believe, on Instagram. You
Yeah.
can follow me on Twitter, and
Yes.
that's Mona Lucero Design, I think DZGN. And
Right.
Twitter, I've been a little bit more political on Twitter lately. I'm like, I know I need to share clothes, but right now I've just been thinking about politics a lot.
Well, I think you have to
Also,
share what you want. I mean, that's the beauty of our world is we get to use our voice, right? So,
that's true. And then I'm on Facebook. I think it's Mona Lucero Design. I think
yes.
it's Mona Lucero Design. So
Yeah.
on my business page.
Yes.
And if you want to send me an email, you can always email me through Mona Lucero.
Okay. So you have an email place there that people can email you because sometimes people do want to email and I'll make sure that I get that on my website as well.
Yeah.
I just want to thank you for being here, Mona. I just want to thank you for connecting with me and uh, I just adore you. I just love you. I've always
Adore you
have.
too, and it's
Just
been great having you as a friend. And we need you back in Denver.
yes, I would love to come back. I'm going to come back for a visit very soon.
Okay, good.
Because I need to connect with the people there. I mean, I miss everyone so much. And I love seeing everyone's pictures and especially what you're doing, Mona. Just inspiring others every single day with your fashion and your love of music and art. And I'm sure your film is just going to be a success. What I would like to do, since I can't be there, is I would like to buy a ticket and donate it to someone.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
how could I do that? Maybe we can talk about that after the show's over.
Yeah.
Um, but thank you. Thank you again. And thank you everyone that tuned in today. If you weren't able to see this video, you will see it on a YouTube channel, my YouTube channel, Kathy Bacon, What's Your Story? You will see it on www.kathybacon.com. You will see it on my Facebook page. You will be able to find this video everywhere. And I appreciate it if you share it, or if you share for the love of Mona, and connect with her, because she has something going on that you're going to want to know about. So thank you again, Mona. And inspiration begins where your story ends, and it always has, Mona. So thank you very much for being here, and I'll see everyone next week. Goodbye.
Bye.